motion by Mr. Cunningham and a second by Mr. Gaskin. Any comments or discussion regarding previous minutes? Not seeing any. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 66, 2018-2019 textbook fee adoption. Mr. McKinney.
Yes, I'll refer that item to Mrs. Townsend.
Yes, I'm going to speak on behalf of myself and the principals. We work together, and as well as Mr. Fleming, on how we incorporate the new one lease program into the new textbook fees. Are $515,000 per year, so we needed to work with that, and we were successful in eliminating some of the old fees that we will no longer need because of the update in the technology and $5 increase. We did use some technology budget to supplement that, as well as some funds out of Title I grant, so that we could try to keep those fees as low as possible for our students and parents. So with that being said, the pre-K, grade K and grade 1 would remain at $130 per year. Grade 2 through 5 would increase $5 to $165 a year. Grades 6, 7, and 8 would stay the same at $160 per year, and the high school would maintain their fee schedule as well. So with that being said,
I thought that was well done by the principals and Mrs. Townsend.
I had
Everybody
a
involved.
question. In the 5th grade, it has paid curriculum copies. Is that, I'm not sure what that means.
there are some instances where in the elementary levels, they need to copy workbooks as part of their curriculum, so that covers that cost.
Okay.
You can't completely do away
With some paper.
paper in,
No.
especially in the primary grades off for us so far, as long as we get it all separate.
Good.
I was gonna ask that, so will there be an, for staff, students, community to purchase the laptops?
Yeah, you go ahead, Leslie.
There'll be two opportunities. We'll have some that in fact, that proposal will come to you, how we're going to do that at the next board meeting. There'll be an early distribution of allowing the kids at the high school who want to buy their computer to give them that option, because these are still very powerful laptops, and most of them have all the software and materials that they may need on them, which saves a lot of money for parents and families. Then we allow the teachers to be able to purchase them, and then we'll open it up to the public. We're gonna use about 400 of them for a summer school where we're expanding our philosophy. I think you heard Mr. McKenzie talk about it at the opening meeting. We're gonna expand our philosophy and pilot a little more aggressive summer school for students that are in the gifted and talented program also. Those will go on sale then the 1st of August when summer's over. But we will have plenty of computers altogether. It's about 2,400 pieces of equipment and Apple TVs because we've written that into the lease, because believe it or not, the technology changes so quickly on the Apple TVs that we did write that into the lease also. So those will be available to buy.
So you said August, Les, was one of the dates?
There'll be some that'll be at the end of the school year in May.
Some in August, okay.
And then
Now-
we'll have some available in August.
If, say, a sophomore buys their computer, can they continue using that one, or would they get another one?
They'll get another
Most, I know it's a very good question to ask, but even the kids understand the difference between the newer ones. But if you're going off to college and you have the option to purchase a laptop of this quality at the price we're gonna be able to offer it, and I can't give you that price exactly right now, but we'll have some that are in extraordinary condition and some that are in good condition. And it would be an awful good buy for a senior. Most of your underclassmen are gonna want the new. They're gonna want the new, even if it's the exact same piece.
Yeah. It's like a new skateboard.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, I have a motion by Mrs. Miller and a second by Mr. Crouch. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Line item 67, Gasoline Mill Township Library Board resignation. Mr. McKenzie.
Yes, you had in your packet a letter from Rick Baumholt, who indicated his need to resign from the Gas City Library Board, and so I would recommend the board approve that request.
Okay. What's the board's pleasure?
Mr. President,
Mrs. Freitas?
I move that we accept Rick Baumholt's resignation from the library board.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mrs. Freitas and a second by Mr. Gaskin. Any comments or discussion?
Well, I'll just publicly state that we appreciate Rick Baumholt's
Service.
work on the library board for a number of years, and wish him well as he moves forward.
Item 68, Personnel. Mr.
Yes,
McKenzie.
Mr. President. We have the following personnel items for the board to consider tonight. Corey Wilson has resigned as the varsity assistant girls basketball coach effective immediately. And Matt Melhoff has resigned as a custodian effective March 13th of this year. Jacob Haskins, we are recommending for your approval as the custodian to take his place effective March 13th. So we would recommend approval of these personnel items as presented this evening.
Thank you, Mr. McKenzie. What's the board's pleasure?
Mr. President,
Mr. Cunningham.
I make a motion to approve personnel recommendations as presented.
Have a motion by Mr. Cunningham. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Freitas. Any comments or discussion regarding personnel? All right, not hearing any. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 69, conference request. Mr. McKenzie.
Yes, we have the following conference requests for the board's consideration this evening. Kurt Funk to attend the Indiana Football Coaches Association Clinic in Indianapolis on March 8th through the 10th at no cost to the corporation. Chance Young to attend the Athletic Director State Conference in Indianapolis on March 17th through the 20th at a cost of $175 to be paid for from the Athletic Department funds. Liz Strong and all preschool teachers and assistants to attend the mandatory Indiana Early Learner Conference in Indianapolis on April 16th at a total cost of $1,287 to be paid for from the Kindergarten Readiness account. And we would recommend approval of these conference requests as presented.
Thank you, Mr. McKenzie.
Mr. President,
Mr. Gaskin.
I make the motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation on the conferences as presented.
Have a motion by Mr. Gaskin. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Crouch. Any comments or discussion regarding conference request? All right, not hearing any. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 70, facilities report. Mr. McKenzie.
Yes, you had in your packet a list of summer maintenance projects that we are contemplating in discussion with the building principals and Mr. Gosser and Mrs. Townsend. This is the list we've come up with, and we identified the budgets of which those possible projects would come from, and the amounts, and we have them totaled for you. We have a key for you at the bottom of each of the pages of the buildings as to those funds. And at the back, we had a couple of items for the central office. Actually, the first one is sealing parking lots at all buildings. That's something we do every year. And Ted has a schedule which of the lots are going to be sealed for that given summer. And the amount there, that's the typical ballpark amount. And then we budgeted for security cameras out here at the central office. And as I've indicated already, we might be able to do that for half that amount or less than half with existing older cameras. So I don't know, you tell me, Mr. President, whether you want me to go through each item from each building, or you want to just start with the building and let the board ask any questions. Anything the board would like to see added to this list, we'd certainly consider.
Of course. I'm a cooperative person.
too.
Any other comments or consensus to that? Okay, I would also. So why don't we, just schedule a work session
Okay,
for, 2 weeks?
okay,
That'll give us time to review it a little bit more than, and prepare us if you have anything come up between now and then. You know, wanna make some changes, and
okay.
let's do that.
I would encourage the board, though, if you have anything that you don't like that's on the current list, or that you would like to be on the list, to let me know, because I know that Ted's already working with vendors to get these estimates, and you don't want to wait a long time to get on their list, or you might not get the project done in the
Sure.
summer. So they're, you know, those people are already lining up jobs.
Yep.
And so,
Yep.
So the yellow,
keep that in mind.
Sure.
the yellow is the worst, are the priority, is that what we're saying here?
No,
No, okay.
no, that just tells you that's from capital projects fund.
Okay, okay. I wanna make sure.
All of this is within budget you've already approved.
Should have a guide or something done.
And it wouldn't be on the list if Jill didn't think we had the money for it.
That's correct.
Well, I mean, I mentioned you cut one thing I was interested, I'd rather just see what you explore first, and then I'll tell the rest, but, I didn't know what ADA and all that kind of stuff, what we run into, so.
Okay, well, appreciate that. We'll table until
Sure.
next meeting, have a work session. Any other questions or comments?
I have a comment.
Sure.
I'm just Tab and principals and everybody involved. I just really, really like the way that we stay after our buildings and keep them, that we just have really nice buildings throughout. And I'm really proud of them. And our community surely is proud of them. And we do a good job of that. That's
Yeah.
kind of one of my things.
We get a lot of compliments from people that aren't a part of this district but visit for a ball game or some other event, complimenting us from time to time on the quality and the appearance of our buildings. And a lot of times they can't believe how old they are because
Right.
it's not evident by the way they look.
In Northview, the upgrade to exhaust fans we just had that room worked on, right? For the dishwasher, is that what it says? In the cafeteria?
Yeah, she's kind of disappointed in that, but,
Okay, I just wanted,
yeah.
At RJ Basket, it was an athletic storage shed. Now, is that the one we talked about? It was too close to the building.
Yeah, this is me. I'm ready to move away from that.
Okay.
Because to me, I couldn't see spending $75,000 to $90,000 on a complex that allows kids to dress in there as well as storage, and it has to be clear across the parking lot from the building. I'm at the point where let's spend $10,000 for a nice storage unit, and that's close to the building, and the coaches have keys, and they can just go right inside the building to dress if they need to.
So the kids wouldn't be in and out of there, or would they?
In the storage unit?
Yeah,
No,
no.
kids wouldn't have access. I would hope not. I would expect the coaches
Just
not
be a
to
wood
give
frame?
keys out.
wood frame building, or I mean like a board like the things we're thinking?
Yeah, probably. I haven't talked to Ted to that extent, but, that's just a lot of money, I think, to put down
I agree. On the parking lot.
a 70-year-old building, and it's not even gonna be convenient.
Any other questions or comments?
Chance, did you have opportunity to give your input on this stuff?
Yeah, Mr. Quater and I talked, and
Good deal.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll move on. Item 71, legislative update. Mr. Cunningham.
Yes, thank you, sir. Well, we'll start right in. Senate Bill 387, teacher licensing. And when you first look at that bill, you think, okay, well, it's talking about teacher licensing, and it does. It requires 90% of individual teachers in public schools to either hold a teaching license or be in the process of obtaining a license under the Transition to Teaching program. Sets a time limit for that transition to be completed within 3 years. But it also goes farther with other amendments that includes authorizing supplemental payments for teachers who are special education professionals, including school psychologists, speech and language pathologists, teachers who teach in the core areas of science, technology, mathematics. And it also allows school corporations through the collective bargaining process to differentiate the amount of salary increases paid to teachers based on that. So that's Senate Bill 387. There's no established, currently right now, there's no established schedule for teacher pay. You know, Mike and Terry, when you guys taught, how the incremental scale went up, you know, that doesn't happen anymore. So I think this is a way to try and keep those people in skilled testing areas and not lose them. So, but that's Senate Bill 387, and it was passed on. I think it's passed on third reading. They are really pushing to get things done and completed. It wouldn't surprise me that I think they've got until the 21st, but it wouldn't surprise me if they're done by the 14th. So, but I'll let you know when that happens. Senate Bill 303, the House Education Committee amended this bill, and it's concerning various education matters, but and a lot of it has to do what's happened with school security, and a safety board to conduct a review and submit a report to the Legislative Council on the current status of school safety across the state to make recommendations to improve school safety. Steve, they're going to be talking about a summer study committee, and I talked to someone about getting you on that summer study committee. So we'll see whether they do that or not. It also requires only an Indiana Expanded Child Protection Index to check and make sure that that index also checks other states, primarily look at sex offenders. And it allows for reimbursement of summer school education services provided through an online provider. And this bill is still getting amended, but we'll see what happens and where that comes from. Actually, I don't know how many more to go through. Senate Bill 189, K-12 funding, requires the state budget agency to transfer money to from 12K that were in the reserve accounts in the amount of limits the transfer to $25 million for fiscal year 17-18 and $75 million for state fiscal year 18-19. And they really want to hear. They also want to hear back on what schools are doing with virtual education. So some of the things that we've talked about what we do with e-learning, I think is having an effect on that. I was really surprised that I think it shows the influence that our ISBA has and our people who lobby for education, because this is a non-budget year. It's Ways and Means, and they approved it, which normally that hardly ever happens. They approve anything with money in an off year. So I know I'm sure not only teachers associations but superintendent associations and our ISBA lobbied for that. Let me just do one more. House Bill 1315, School Financial Management. This is from Tim Brown, and a lot of this has been affected by what's going on in Muncie and Gary. Senator Talion, who is the ranking minority member for this committee, she's really tried to advocate on part of the ISBA and other education professionals to limit this idea of oversight for a period of time for Gary and Muncie. In any way, it's taken away the school board's right, and elected officials' right to be able to provide input from the community. She tried to create a sort of a 5-year limit on all that would happen, and that's been going straight down party lines, and it was defeated. So there's no time limit right now on how long that is. So, you know, you could have state-run Gary and Muncie schools forever unless something changes. And the thing that's worrisome for our ISBA is there's another section of that where they refer to it as economically distressed political subdivisions. And so they're really worried about that being modified at some point to basically open it up to look at schools and say, well, you look like you're economically distressed, maybe they need to be taken over. And so that's kind of scary, I think, for us. But the ISBA has been really lobbying hard about that to try and do something to that effect. So again, that's House Bill 1315, and it's going straight down party lines all the way, so it's going to pass. So, I'll entertain any questions you have.
Any questions for Mr. Cunningham, Administrator? Thank you, Chris. Appreciate the update.
Most welcome.
Okay, move on. Item 72, claims against corporation. Ms. Townsend.
Yes, I'm recommending that we pay claims in the amount of $1,072,500.74, please.
Thank you. What is the board's pleasure?
Mr. President,
Mrs. Miller.
I'll make a motion that we approve the claims as presented.
I'll second.
Motion by Mrs. Miller and a second by Mr. Gaskin. Any comments or discussion regarding claims? All right, not hearing any. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 72, or 73, correspondence and other business. Mr.
Yes,
McKenzie.
just a few things. On February 24th, Saturday evening of that date, Mrs. Winter and Mr. Gaskin and Mrs. Miller and myself attended a dinner and program sponsored by, and Mississinewa Community Schools received an award and recognition. I'll have Mrs. Wilson pass it down for the board to look at. Mrs. Wilson, you can do that now. And you can be looking at it. We received what they call the Vision Award, and it was in recognition of our collaboration with Family Services in regards to programs promoting mental health and counseling for our students, and such programs as Natural Helpers, Safe Bus, and there's probably others that Mrs. Winter can mention, and I'll let her do that. But I just want to say that, as I said in the acceptance comments that I made at the dinner and program, I don't think we would be receiving this kind of recognition and award if it wasn't for Mrs. Winter. She has the vision, as the award indicates, and has built the bridges and the connections and the networks with a variety of service organizations throughout the county and in the Mississinewa area. And that has brought a lot of terrific programming and financial support to our district for our staff and students. So I commend her and express my appreciation. I know she'll say it's a team effort, and it is. It takes the rest of the administrative team and targeted teachers to help all that make that all happen. But she is certainly the engine behind the machine, and so we appreciate her work in that regard. Also wanted to mention that I have sent out to you I forwarded email messages that I've received from our choir programs and our band programs, how the outstanding achievement and success that our kids have had in those programs. I really believe that we have the best programs in the area and the best results with our choir and band sound and programming of anybody around, and to think we don't have an auditorium to support that, I think is just is greater recognition to what our people are able to achieve. So we appreciate them. I also want to say that Saturday night I attended maybe one of the best games I've ever been, had the opportunity to experience. I was just a fan in the bleachers, but it was a special event to be in that gym that night. I thought our players represented us well. They left it all out on the floor. I went in the locker room after the game, and there were a lot of upset, sad, teary-eyed, crying young men. And that's because they put it all out there and gave it their all. And the fans were great on both sides, Marion and Mississinewa, I thought. So I thought our kids represented us well. Our coaches did a great job of preparing the kids for that moment in time. And I thought they had a really fine season, especially since one of their star players, a 4-year starter, was out for almost most of that season. Yet he was a big integral part at the end to our success. So we commend them and recognize them. And our next board meeting will be March 19th. We'll start it at 6 o'clock, as you've indicated, with a public work session on summer maintenance programs. And we may have an executive session after that meeting having to do with security and/or personnel. So with that said, that's all I have. Mrs. Townsend, Mrs. Winter, you have anything to add?
I just wanted to go back real quickly to say about Jill, when Tab mentioned vision, it made me think of it. Jill has been meeting regularly with the principals to put in line items that budget for special programming that we've started the last 2 to 3 years. And by doing that, it has solidified as much as you can in a school budget, programming that we think we will continue to be able to offer as cutting edge in the years to come. And by doing that and putting that into the budget and the general fund, it has taken so much pressure off the principals in looking at perfunctory items in the school fees that made all this great programming possible. So, you know, we really appreciate that, and I know for a fact the principals do. And you really got to compliment your principals, because you can have the best ideas in the world, but if you don't have people that can't put the pen to the paper or hit the pavement running, which are these people right here minus a couple, you just don't get that kind of programming. And to be able to have the kind of programming that gets us the awards that we do, you have to know the kids. And the kids have to believe in you. And they're doing that for you every single day.
To piggyback on that, this Saturday, the Northview has the, I think, 2 robotics groups going to the state down at Lucas Oil in the robotics competition. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna be hearing.
Mr.
less
Burbank's
robot.
working that. So-
Mr. Burbank got asked.
Yeah, he got asked by the state to work that, Mr. Burbank, and that's gonna bring $1,500 to the robotics program.
Great.
His-
That's
And
great.
something on those competitions, we're gonna do a whole, not a work session, but bring it to the board for you to see. We had competitions in math bowl
Yes,
this year, not just in robotics, in the spelling bee, which is common. Help me out, Steffi. Battle of the Books.
We're looking at, we're gonna do a We the People at the elementary level. We're gonna, we looked at implementing it this year, but some things kinda got caught up, so we're working to set up a timeline for next year to get that started. There's not actually a competition at the elementary level, but we want to do a showcase with that and start getting the kids interested in that so that they're prepared to go on and compete in that area at the middle school and the high school level. So same thing with our science club and our coding clubs, is that we haven't gone the science fair route because we want we created this, or Miss Rayoc has created this well-rounded science student where they're incorporating all these different areas of science with our PTLOE that we're doing within the school day too. So we have opted to go more showcases in those areas, so we will do showcases at the end of the year to, present those.
Normally, as the kids get older, they lose a little bit of interest in those type of competition, but because of the excitement and the diversity of the opportunities that they have, we are gonna continue a lot of that into the middle school, and with hopes that you see a Mississinewa Brain Team on Channel 13, and some of those other, things that we've been dreaming about, but now are becoming a really strong reality. The other piece of that is because of their willingness to meet for hours on end together in planning, you're seeing teachers cross over into school buildings with expertise. So it's not uncommon to see an elementary teacher, Alicia Scott, or Thomas Cheney, or Jennifer Moore, working with the middle school robotics team. And now we're gonna expand because of Brody and Amanda's willingness to lead it. And for their willingness to lead it, Jamie and Stephanie had to be able to take on some of their responsibilities to give them that. Now we're gonna move into the higher level pieces where you go from plastic to metal in robotics, which means faster, quicker, and more strategic. So that team effort, when they look like they're wiped out at a ball game,
They are.
and you don't see them moving as fast as they normally do, that's because of the commitment that they're making to that after-school programming, and we're just seeing the culture just explode. And if you look at the pictures that are being tweeted out, you do see some from, you still have some kids that are just smart and everything, but you're seeing a lot of different faces in different activities. So we're very, very proud of the year we're having, and very proud of the work that they're doing.
Yep.
We're always
Good.
looking for more competitions with the elementary level. It's fun to watch the kids, when you put them on a school bus and you know they're going somewhere to compete, they feel like they're big kids, so
You get
they're
excited.
just very, very excited about it, so.
And I wanna tell you something, because it'll make you proud. We had a student on the math bowl team find an error on our t-shirts, and pointed out to the teacher that we hadn't read the directions thoroughly, and he caught it, or we would've all been disqualified. So
Really?
we're very proud of our kids that are willing, they are paying attention. If you ever get depressed or feel down that our kids aren't doing great things, whew, I'm telling you, walk through those hallways, cause it'll light you up, to see just what's going on and how awesome that they're getting, and how confident they're getting in their abilities to do things outside of the norm.
The, Susan, the thing we went to, the Crystal, Congressman Woman Brooks come over to our table, and Kevin May come over. We had a lot of people come up to our school system, and, you know, and who we were and what we were doing. I guess it got out there. I know Kev spent quite a bit of time with, I thought she was a pretty interesting person, Mrs. Brooks. She really,
Yeah.
and so,
Got that strong education background with her
Right.
parents.
yeah, and she's definitely had an ear turned towards education, I thought, and so did, I think Kevin's done a nice job
Yeah.
too. So.
Both very approachable
Yes.
people and have a good heart, trying to do what's right.
I just wanted to add just how proud I am of our district, like in all ways, and just so you know, the Visionary Award was not, there's a select member or like a volunteer members that choose that, and it was not part of, I wasn't part of it, but I certainly can be proud of our district, and I say that over and over everywhere I go, so I know there's a lot of hard work that goes into it, and it really is appreciated as a parent and board member and everything else. It's nice to see freshman orientation. I love the pathways examples that were in the book, and that was really cool, and generated conversation with my daughter at home, which I appreciated, just to be able to have that opportunity to talk to her about future, because, you know, it doesn't always, unless you have something like that, it just doesn't always present itself, at least, you know, unless you're very, very intentional about it. So it was nice to have that conversation with her, and nice to see us doing work around that as well. So
Thank you, Mrs. Miller.
all in all, very proud.
Nice to hear.
Last thing, the telehealth ribbon cutting will be April the 16th at 10 o'clock at Northview. We'll send you an invitation, and we would love to have all of you able to attend. Today was our first day of having students, and I checked in a couple times, and we had not had any students, but we did have parents call and interested in it. So we'll get that invitation to you and do your very best to come over. And there'll be some state level officials here to speak at that open house, along with Mr. McKenzie and Mrs. Miller.
What's the date? What's the date?
April the 16th,
Do you have the time yet?
10 o'clock
10?
Northview?
at Northview.
We did send home flyers Friday with all of our students at Northview, just to make parents aware of the telehealth and that it was coming about. So if you do have people that have questions about it, please encourage them to call us and ask more questions. We're more than willing to sit down and explain everything to them. I think it will be of great benefit to our community members, our students and our parents, so it's a pretty neat thing.
Yep. Very
And the
good.
last thing I have is the safety information that was in your packets. Mr. McKenzie and Mr. Potter did an excellent job getting out in front of that. And I bet in the months to come, when you see some of the recommendations coming down, from the Department of Education, you're gonna see that these
We got it
guys are
covered.
on the cutting edge of the things that they're gonna be looking for.
All we want. Anything else?
Anything else from administrators?
The high school team divided and conquered this weekend. Mr. Resch attended the spring musical. Had nothing but great things to say about all of our students and staff as Mr. Young and I covered the state tournament. Very, very proud of all the work that went into that. I know it's pretty intense preparation, and then the fruits of their labor, both Friday night and Saturday night, everything went very, very well. So we're very thankful for Mrs. Faulkner and Mrs. Walters and their team for the great show. Appreciate Mr. Resch covering that.
Thank you, Mr. Q.
Any board members have anything else to bring up? All right, not seeing any. Item 74, motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Miller and second by Mr. Gaskin. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries,
There's no public.
and there is nobody public. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Good meeting. Good